So I'm so happy to be with you. It's exciting. I was really looking forward to this. And because you guys are devotees, I want to start with this great quote, and I'll tie it in and I'll read it. Did Gayatri go away? She's just disappeared. Anyway, hope she comes back.
Yeah.
One often hears references to altered states of consciousness. Implied in this expression is a suggestion that higher states of awareness are anomalies. Actually, there is only one state of consciousness, superconsciousness. The conscious and subconscious minds are our altered states, representing as they do the downward filtering of superconsciousness through the brain. So I'm going to read that again. The conscious and subconscious minds are actually, I added the word actually, are actually our altered states, representing the downward filtering of superconsciousness through the brain. Superconsciousness is forever the reality. It is our true and native state of being. And I propose, and I know that Swamiji would agree with this, that in that quote, you could substitute creativity. Because one of the key qualities of superconsciousness is creativity. It is part of superconsciousness to be solution conscious, to be aware of infinite possibilities. Well, I could go this way, I could go that way. And the intuitive sense of flow, this is the way I need to go. All of that together. And it is infinitely creative. Swami was once asked, what is the secret to prosperity? And he said, creativity. Because in order to have prosperity, you have to just keep trying. Well, that didn't work, but you don't go, oh no, that didn't work, I'm gonna stay stuck here, you know? It's like, that didn't work, let me try this. That didn't work, let me try that. Let me improve it, let me try this idea. And so that energy and that magnetism is the creative impulse that brings us into that superconscious state. But I like realizing that the superconscious state is actually the native inherent state, because that is absolutely true for creativity also. Creativity is the natural, intrinsic, inherent state of the human being and of the soul. The soul is made, as you mentioned in your beautiful prayer, in the image and likeness of God. We are made in the image and likeness of God. And the qualities of God we know are often spoken of as peace and love and light and all these good things. But I'll tell you, if you look around you at the incredible natural world and the diversity of life and the butterfly wings and the reptile skin and all of the amazing things that we have in this world, all of the galaxies, all of the stars, there is nothing if not incredibly prolific creativity. God, the nature of God is incredibly prolifically creative. And so too is the shining soul. Hold on, set your speaking language. Okay, I'm speaking in English. So too is the shining soul within us. It is made absolutely in that image, and it's always in that superconscious state of communion with the divine flow of energy. It is flowing with the divine. In a sense, we're all brahmacharyas, because the word means flowing with the divine, flowing with God, flowing in the current of the divine. And so that native state comes through every being when they're born. And you see a child reaching out and trying to move, and that didn't work, so they roll that way. And how do I get up the stairs? And everything is a try this, try that, with a vigorous spirit, undaunted by the fall. You know, they don't go, oh no, I fell over, I probably won't ever be able to walk. You know, it's like, which is how we kind of get in our brainy old age. And so that state of of free form creative flow is not something that has to be created. I'm going to try to get a little more light on myself so you can see it. It doesn't have to be created. It doesn't have to be invented or added or learned or anything that we have to go get, just like we don't have to go get the divine consciousness. It's in us already. So what we're really talking about with children and with our own inner child is how to not cover it up, how to not thwart it, how to not block it. That's what we're really looking at. And then within ourselves, how to unblock the places where that possibly happened. And for most people, I've taught a lot of years. And in many of the classes that I've taught, when people come in and we share at the beginning, why are you here? What are you wanting to do? Many of them tell stories of, I used to love art. I used to love to dance. I used to love to sing in kindergarten or in first grade. And then XYZ happened. Something happened. And the teacher said, what is that? Or, it was the life of the soul, which is what's expressed through art. And this brings in the relationship between art and creativity. Art is one of the most supreme vehicles for activating and expressing our deep inner life, our soul life. It's the way that the soul inside of us can be made visible, is through our creative and artistic expression. We bring out what we can't necessarily see when we haven't yet created. And so the child is expressing the soul and expressing something that's coming from inside. And the teacher's like, oh, the tree's not supposed to be purple, or, the feedback is based on form and on exterior vision. And we are living, friends, as you know, in the very beginning of Dwapara Yuga. So we're moving out of an age where form is dominant, but that we have to recognize that we have all the institutions around us are pretty much rooted in hundreds of years of Kali Yuga thinking. And so that is how art and creativity have been dealt with in our civilization in the last, period of time. And so when you think of art, you think of representing a form, visual art, like we're going to learn how to make this thing over here that exists appear on my paper. I'm going to represent it. I'm going to reflect it. I'm going to accurately convey a vision of what exists already in the outer world. So form-based, you see. And similarly, we have, particularly in the last few hundred years, the factory model basis of education that is pretty much it's the educational systems as a whole were created in response to the Industrial Revolution. And the primary values were to create people who were compliant and trainable so that they could do repeating actions, like follow logic chains. Factories themselves, like let's get people to be able to do factory work. But even things like accounting and other things were based on sort of learning how to do rote things that could be replicated and created. And so in that context, form is important, form is dominant, and so is compliant behavior, being able to learn how to follow instructions and fit the mold. And in that system, many people were shut. Somebody should probably be muted. Let's see, how come somebody can just mute everybody. People had a lot of experiences where they were bringing out their soul in a child situation, in a native intrinsic I am creating energy, and there was a dampening of that. And so that is something that we should be aware for our own inner child, because most people, unfortunately, I'd have to say most people are blocked in that in some way or another, or constricted, or withheld. Maybe not blocked, but because another thing that happens in that scenario is by 4th or 5th grade, it kind of gets determined, those guys are the artists. They're the ones that can make the pretty picture, can copy well. those are the elite few over there that are the artists. And that is, again, in this era, this false overlay of artist and creative. And I would tell you, in the dawning, this is the dawning of the Dwapara Yuga. In the Dwapara Yuga, it's not like that. It's a time in which energy and joy and creative freedom is of high value, and a recognition that joy is magnetic, and that the capacity to have the channel open and to have a flow of joy is one of the most important things you can learn. And it's also even true for our time of crisis and challenge on this planet. If everything falls to pieces, if all the forms all change, if civilization goes through a catastrophic passage, what is going to be one of the very core survival skills in that time? It's not going to be what you learned in school, rote memory. It's not going to be these outer things that were, stuffed in. It's going to be educare, what is brought forth from inside. And one of the core skills is going to be creativity. If you're going to adapt to a world where the forms are changing constantly, if you're going to adapt to a world where everything that you knew and is now dissolving and changing, and we're already in that world, it's just going to accelerate, and it is accelerating, So, Dwapara Yuga is a time when every human being, every person will begin to have a sense of their own creative capacity to have their own channel, and to be aware that their individual expression is an important core to their being, is an important part of their path. And that's something that in Kali Yuga, by contrast, that is associated with those who do art and those that are special and elite, and there's only a chosen few of them. In Dwapara Yuga, everyone is encouraged and called to bring this forth. And it's an important part of the emergence of this new age, of this new era, that we do that. We have to do it in order to bring it forth. If we slunch back and wait to see how it turns out, it's not going to work. We have to go into the field and engage it. So one way to look at it is that in the education of the child and in the family and in the school, you're not actually trying to set up all of these things outwardly that the child needs to do or learn or accomplish. You're trying to hold the space and encourage the flowering of the soul, the unfurling of human potential, the gentle and tender blossoming of each unique soul's qualities, which is what education for life is very good with, right? And the spiritual path of Ananda and of yoga and of Yogananda is one that really gives emphasis to the understanding of originality in its deeper meaning. In just, in the art world, originality, in the Kali Yuga art world, I should be specific. In the Kali Yuga art world, it's like originality means to be on the cutting edge and break the rules and do all these things that are really wild and, outdo the shock value of the last exhibition. This is kind of what originality means, rebellion in this time period. But the word Swami Kriyananda taught me was from the word origin, originality. That's where that word comes from. And so true originality is when you are not reflecting, repeating, reiterating, or even breaking boundary. It's not when you're on the edge. It's when you are coming from your own deep origin, when you are at the center of your being, when your creative expression is rooted in the deepest part of your own soul. That's originality. And it doesn't matter how it looks. It does not matter how it looks. It's that the flow of energy and consciousness and vibration is true in its resonance from your own authentic self and being. And that is powerful. And that allows you to move quickly on your soul's path too, because a lot of the diversions our souls experience over time and in different incarnations is getting really caught up in things that aren't ours, that aren't our true destiny, aren't our true path. We do it because our parents think we should, or the society thinks we should, or people will like me if I do, or, you know, a lot of external reasons. And time and again, we spend, you know, decades going down a path that isn't us. And we have to be true to who we are in order to be the soul in its place of growth and evolution. I love this analogy that Davy gave one time. And she said, God is the ultimate GPS, global positioning system, right? And if you tell the GPS, I want to go to Rome and I'm in Florence, but you're actually in Calabria or some other town in Italy, but you want to look better, so you say you're in Florence. It's not going to take you there. You have to actually put in your input point before you're going to, the true endpoint point, before you're going to get to the destination. But the other thing about this metaphor that I love is if you make a wrong turn, or if you go a wrong way, it doesn't go, you idiot, you were supposed to go right there, you know? It just says, what is the word? Recalculating, you know? And so it's, anyway, it's like, you can't really, like Sri Yukteswar unbelievably says in the Holy Science, you can't even take a step on the spiritual path without love. And you can't believe this is the summation of this great intellectual work, but you know, that's it, love. And it's similarly true with authenticity and originality. You really can't grow very directly or wholesomely or vibrantly on your own spiritual path if you are living on the circumference or edge of who you are, or pretending to be someone you're not, or living for outer values. So I just want to, you know, bring the nurturing of creative expression in ourselves and in our children is the beholding and recognition and enjoyment of the unique original being that each person is. And I have to say for myself with Rachel, my own parenting advice that worked well for me and that I remembered all through the years of growing up with her, was to remember to just enjoy her. Because what is the greatest compliment and what is the greatest, you know, energy that helps you come forth is when you're with someone who enjoys you, right? Who literally takes delight in your company, who feels pleasure in your existence, and not the many things we do to shape or make the person be a certain way. Even so well-intended, I know that all of the controlling behavior patterns we have is like, oh, I better make her behave this way so people will like her, so she'll be safe, so she won't be rejected, you know, and, you know, I better make her be quiet and sit down and do all these things so that life will be kind to her, right? And I'm not saying I never did that, but I tried to not do it, you know, and I tried to really, not in the sense of not giving her guidelines, but in the sense of making the dominant energy one of appreciating and recognizing and enjoying who she was and who she is. And that kind of ties back in now. We're gonna look at the time. Okay, we're good. It ties back into the creativity and the art, okay? Because I use and believe in the power of art as a vehicle for creativity. Art is not something you do because you're creative. You're one of those few elite people who's so creative, you're an artist, you know. No, you use art to get to creativity. That's how you awaken it. There's something just, and this I have to say, it's just magic, it's grace, but there is not a modality of the arts that doesn't do it. If you pick up clay, if you start to paint, if you start to move, if you start to dance, if you start to sing, any of the modalities of the arts awaken creativity. When you engage in them, you start to be creative. And so that is what their purpose is initially for me, and in the work that I do, is to open the channel of the inner original authentic soul and open the channel for the flow of creativity, so that it can be something that it is sparked and awakened and catalyzed for the rest of your life, really. And it's actually pretty amazing to me. I've taught for, I don't know, a lot of decades, and it's such a joy because time after time, weekend or workshop, people come in and they're like tight and they're nervous and they're like, I'm not really an artist, but I came anyway because I don't know, you know. and then like in a really short time, and that's what I've kind of focused my career on, is how to make that a really short time. Like, let's just jump right in, you know, let's make it happen. They're like laughing and playing and having fun and having delight. And if nothing else, the flow of joy through the human being is intrinsically healing and rejuvenating and awakening and recentering and recalibrating. And so it's not it's not about, does it come out well? What does it look like? Is it a pretty picture? And in fact, it's actually sometimes, I have to say, a little bit harder for the spiritual people to do this, because they are more insistent that they make pretty pictures. You know, it's like, and it's again that GPS thing, you know, like I have to make the beautiful flower or the cross or the heart or the little thing that shows that I'm properly spiritual. And and they're not going to make the brown splat, they're going to do the pretty pink colors, you know. But that's actually a barrier, right? And at a certain point, that gets in the way. And when you break that out and you're willing to make the true and authentic connection between what flows out and what appears, then all of that dissolves and you're in a place of grace and a place of joy and a place of flow. And so I'll tie this into some experiences of recognizing that flow and appreciating it and cultivating it when Rachel was a child. And these are my highlight reels where I did it right. You know, I'm not claiming to have always, you know, done the right thing, but I did in these circumstances, and it was really a joy. So for example, one time when Rachel was like, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years old, and I had been in the living room and she was in the kitchen on the floor playing, and I wasn't paying attention for a little while. And the next thing you know, I come in like, I don't know, in 10 minutes time, and she's taken all of these jars that I had of noodles and rice and everything, and she's dumped them onto the floor. And she's playing with them, right? And of course, there's the adulted response that goes, oh no, you've made such a mess, and what have you done, or whatever, you know. And I just in that moment thought, wow, look at what you're creating. How beautiful, look at that. And she was creating. She found her tools and her materials and her modalities, and she was swirling them around. How is that different than painting a picture? You know, she was really in that creative flow. And I think that's one hint, you know, when a child and when another human being, when one of your friends and colleagues, when your inner child is doing this, when it's in a place of discovery and flow, give it the enjoyment. Respond to it with the wonder of it. Like, wow, that is so fun. And then you can clean it up later. You're going to have to clean it up anyway, right? And similarly, I saved this pair of, like, I had these plastic glasses, and when she was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6, she melted it in the toaster oven. She stuck it in the toaster oven, and she was, you know, but it was pretty interesting because I pulled it out, and like the what are these called? This part of the glasses, it had turned into a little spiral because sometimes plastic spirals, And I was like, wow, Rachel, your first sculpture. And it was fun. But those are just examples of in so many different circumstances being able to switch your mind out of the tidy it up, make it pretty, fix it, clean it up, don't mess it up mentality, and get it into the place that recognizes when joy is happening and responds with joy. Because that is what sparks the flame. And it's a light, it's a form of light, the flame of the heart, the flame of our passion that becomes compassion, that becomes devotion. You don't get to the higher devotional places authentically if you're squelching the very vibrancy of the soul that is transmuted into that higher state. And so that is an important part. I mean, in Kali Yuga, we're also overcoming, I'm just going to open a window. Hang on a second. In Kali Yuga, we're also overcoming this very powerful medieval theology that we've been in. We're not overtly enculturated in this anymore. It's more subliminal, but it's very pervasive. And it's that God is far away and he's kind of mad because we've been kind of bad, and we have to do something, penance and all these things to self-punish in order to deserve the divine. This is a really powerful feeling, tone, thought pattern archetype that we have carried for generations. And that is Kali Yuga, friends. That is not Dwapara. The coin of man's redemption has been exchanged for calm acceptance and joy. We don't have to crawl on our knees bleeding to come to the divine and be worthy of it. And we don't have to be incredibly great artists to feel joy in creativity. We don't have to deserve the divine. We have to celebrate and honor and allow that it's already inside of us. There it is. Let it shine. Let it shine. And of course, that medieval mentality was not the teachings of the great masters. Jesus Christ said, bring your light out, quit hiding it under the bushel, get it out, let your light shine. But the medieval mindset is the overcoat of humanity in an earlier phase of evolution. So the teachings that have come through the great saints and sages have always been of love and light and truth and beauty and creativity. I mean, maybe that word wasn't used, but if you look at what is being said, it's there. So let's see, is it time for questions? Let me see. Yeah, maybe we should stop. I have to see these. Do you guys have some thoughts or responses or questions that you might bring up? You could unmute and just speak.
I don't know where to begin, Dana. I don't know where to begin. And so thank you. Yeah. Um, I feel like the child, and that, yeah, that this is a call to me to find that creative being in my own self so that I can maybe possibly hope to share that with my child. So
Well, let me
that's,
just jump right in on that, Hansa. I can absolutely guarantee you that every step in the direction of healing and loving and shining forth that inner child is immediately, powerfully rippling out to your children and the world. I mean, and to generations, because when you make that switch within yourself, generations to come are affected by that. Isn't that the native tradition that you affect 7 generations into the future? Absolutely. So
even Master says that.
does he? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like okay, I got to see your name. Renata. Padmini? No, who is this?
Yes, it's Padmini, but Padmini is my wife, so
Okay,
she's not
but
there.
who are
She's
you?
actually I'm Sachin, and Padmini is actually at her weekly Ananda yoga class she's giving, so I'm
Okay.
filling in. But actually, I also want to ask you something in the same tonality than Hansa, because it resonates a lot what you say about what we are trying to do, and sometimes we succeed, sometimes we fail. Um, our daughter, she's 6 now, she's at the age when she's doing experiences, and sometimes just walk on my nerves like crazy, and sometimes you just hold a little bit and as you say, anyway, we'll have to clean it up. But could you maybe comfort us like you just did by telling Hansa that it's actually anything we do is fine, but because I really feel that we are in the transition period, so we are, as parents, we are learning to be
Yeah.
Dwapara Yuga kids, parents, parenting like this. So we fail a lot. And at what point are we going to traumatize our children, or at what point it's too late? I mean,
How old
how
is your
do,
child, did you say?
she's 6, and
6.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
six
yeah.
and a half.
No, I get it. I get it. I think I would respond in a couple of ways to that. One is, I think that one of the most powerful things we can do with our children is be authentic and original ourselves. And that includes authentic communication. And so if you can say, wow, I didn't handle that very well, and I feel a little sad about that. I'd like to do better next time. That is powerful. That untraumatizes. If there was something, if you yell or if, something happens, if you can come and say, I was really anxious and somehow I let that get the best of me. So I'm back to, I'm sorry if that affected you, to apologize or just to share where you were coming from. I think that it models it for them that it's safe to make mistakes, that it's safe to not be perfect, that it's safe to overreact emotionally and then recognize it and later, make amends. But it also really puts them in a truly real relationship with you, which will pay off unbelievably in adolescence. Because they trust you. You're not you're not like over here going, this is how it's, I'm perfect and you're this. You're not being that medieval god to them. You're being the loving being that is cheering for them even in their worst mistakes. And you get to that by being honest about who you are. I think that's one level, and that has helped. Rachel and I are very close, and it's been that honesty and authenticity that has led that process. And we've had some, difficult, challenging times, but our communication with each other is real and deep and growthful. But let's see, there was something else I was going to say about that, though, about, the little steps. Absolutely, every little bit of freedom you can put into the day, Hari Bol, hallelujah. Like, even just go, let's all shake and bake a little bit, and especially when it's in relationship to what's happening energetically. Because with children, a lot of times anger or frustration or acting out is simply and nothing more than an energy release to an energy buildup. And as adults, we do it too. We start having an argument over the toothpaste when in fact we're just kind of building up a tension, inside of us. And it doesn't really have to do with the toothpaste. It's just like, at a certain point, you're like, oh, why do you always do that? Or whatever. And if we can start working with the energy itself rather than what happened, then we're really in it. And then as soon as you're working with the energy itself, you can be playful. And that's what we do a lot in transformative arts. Like if you're let's say you're feeling anger, and as human beings we take that feeling and we go, I'm angry because that person was mean to me, or the mechanic ruined my engine, or whatever it is. And then as soon as you have a because that ties it to the outer world, you have stitched that story to you. And then you have to solve the story in order to get rid of the anger. You have to fix the car. You have to, you have to get an apology or whatever it is, because that's how the story gets fixed. But if you don't stitch it to you in the first place and let it be an energy, so then it doesn't have to stick to you either. So for instance, if you're feeling anger, you can go, I'm feeling anger. And you can do it creatively by going, I am a red dragon and I am going to eat the entire city. And I am going to stomp, stomp, stomp. And I'm going to eat all of the towers. And then the next thing, you just play with that energy. You're letting it have a release. You're letting it be real because it's a energy, right? Anger is a energy. And if you let it be just that energy, it starts to laugh, it starts to release, it starts to go, okay, I'm not really, okay, now I'm kind of a calmer dragon. I might even be a dinosaur. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling like, it just starts to let go and change. And so the more you can incorporate little playful ways to let energy be the real story. And energy always changes. Energy changes form. Energy transforms. It moves across forms. 1 minute it's a raging dinosaur, and the next minute it's started to release that energy, and it's slowing down in the forest, and it stops to eat a palm tree. And these things shift. And the imagination is always eager and ready to take us to the place that resolves the energy. And then we have the power to resolve within our own being in a very short period of time. But if we stitch it to a reason or a story outwardly, then we rely on that outer thing to be done. I'm sorry, we're closed. Sorry, we're closed. I'm hiding in the cafe at the moment. So someone just came. I gotta shut the door. Hold on. They saw me and they wanted me to make them a cappuccino. And it was Jan, for those of you who know. It was Jan.
I just was gonna chime in with something about what you said with transforming the energy, because before I came to Ananda, I was doing a lot of nervous system regulation work, and it really ties into that of like, if you're feeling angry, go and like punch some pillows. But I love your way of making it really playful, and I've seen that work really well. I don't have kids of my own, but friends and family do, and when we're together and we're with the kids, I see that sometimes when the parents react to the kids by feeling like their emotions are so real and getting in with them of like, oh no, you're sad, and like making that sadness or making that anger so real, then it becomes so much bigger, versus if you make it a playful thing of like, okay, let's be angry now, as you say, let's be stompy dinosaurs, then you're able to move through it. And that's what you're there for as the adult, is that you can model your nervous system regulation so that they can learn to do it themselves in all these different ways. So that was awesome. And I wanted to add just one other thing that I really love, which is a model, and it ties into what you were saying about letting children become the soul that they're meant to be. And I've heard of these two models of parenting, the one which is the carpenter, where you're trying to build a child. You put all these planks of wood the way you want it to be, and you have a plan, and you're going to build it the way you want, and you put all the nails in, which is kind of the Kali Yuga way of saying, like, you're going to be a doctor, and you're going to be a lawyer, and all these things. But then the other model is the gardening model, where your child is a plant, and you don't actually know what plant it's going to be. You get a seed, and you do your best. You put the water in, you make nice soil, you try and create an environment, but as your plant is growing, you figure out, oh, it's this kind of plant, and you're going to need this much sunlight and this much soil, and I'll put you in this area of the garden that you'll like a bit more. And these things, which it's the creativity of yourself as a parent to respond to your child as they truly are, which again, I don't have any experience with, but I love that idea, that way of seeing parenting.
Oh, absolutely. And that creativity is with us as adults to respond to other children, even if they're not our own, and also other human beings. I loved how you said the creativity to respond to people as they are. Like that is because the creative mind is open to new input, open to what's possible, that, and so it's like, oh, and it's curious, it's like, oh, that's interesting. And it appreciates, oh, I like that. Oh, I this. It's a very different consciousness than the critical mind that's going, who are they? What are they doing? I wonder what, it's like you can start to feel, talk about energy system regulation, you can feel the energetic difference between the chatty critical mind, which kind of goes and the accepting appreciating mind. No, that's great. Thank you for that. The nervous system regulation makes sense. Yeah, and so for instance, I give this example, like when I was teaching a class in at the Arvada Arts Center years ago. It was an art class, and there were parents who were taking their kids around to fill them up with all the necessary things that would get them into Harvard, right? So they had this lesson and they had that lesson, and of course we need an art class, so we drop them off for the art class. I'll be back in an hour, and then I pick them up and I'm going to take them to this class. It was like, they were on this track to make sure their kids had all these experiences. And I remember these kids came in and they were so tired. And I just looked at them and I said, would you like a nap? And they were like, yes. And so they went over in the corner and just like fell asleep. And I thought, total success in that class, for them, because that's what they needed. And tuning into what is the actual energy, what's the mind agenda about what's needed. And similarly, like with children, if they have, I use this example, if they're having an argument, they come in, they're like, oh, he hit me and she did that. And you can sort it out, find the story, right? You can look for the story and go, oh, now who started it? What did you say? What did you do? What did you say? What did you do? And then you're resolving the story, right? And then that's, like you were saying, engaging them more in the story, right? You're validating and amplifying the story. But you can just take a moment, and sometimes you'll just feel it. Like, are you guys tired? Yeah, we're tired. Are you, what is that? What are you feeling? And or move them into an embodiment, expression of it. Move them into something that helps them to feel that energy. So it is, then we have a chance. Then we're literally, like, back to your question. Was it Sachan? What was your name?
Sachin.
Sachin. What are those little steps? Having that perspective that is looking for the underlying energy is a huge leap from Kali Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. Instead of looking to resolve the story and fix the form, how can we get to what is the underlying energy that's happening here? So and it's not, if you really start to be intuitively perceptive of the energy, it's not always what it looks like on the surface. Like I've noticed in my art classes that some people really need encouragement and help expressing anything. And some people are madly expressing, but it's not coming from their center. It's they're singing and screaming and splatting, but it's not what they're really feeling. So you can't even judge process work by the form. You have to feel what is the real energy going on. And so when your child you were saying she's tell me a little bit more about what's her name, what she does.
Her name is Lucia. She's 6.5. She's wonderful. She's teaching us more than the opposite way, and we are learning as much as we can. And she's actually creative, and we try to not stop it. I mean, what you say is just gold for me, both because it resonates with what we try to do, and also give lots of tips. And sometimes we're just talking a lot with Padmini. Aren't we traumatizing her? How much we have failed already, and blah blah blah. But actually, it's okay. But it's just so nice to hear what you say, because I can hear all the experience you have, and it's comforting already. So
Okay,
thank you
good.
so much.
No, I appreciate that. And even with our mistakes, every child comes to us with their unique karmic agenda, and that includes our mistakes. It does. I mean, it took me a long time to see that, but I really believe it, anyway. Gayatri's back. Yay, I saw your message. Thank you. She disappeared.
I just turned my camera off, but I had a quick question. We're getting close on our time, but you had mentioned in there authenticity and creativity as requirement to really nurturing devotion. And could you speak more on that for our own spiritual life, but also for naturally awakening that in children?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's a great question. Well, sometimes I think of it even as just like the chakras and Kundalini. The second chakra is often thought of as creativity, but it's also that part of creativity that comes from being able to move and be somatically free. And then that chakra of expression of love and sensuality, as it comes upward, it comes to the heart and becomes passion and compassion, the ability to really love and engage with another. And then as that freely grows and develops, it moves upward to the spiritual eye and becomes devotion and divine energy. And so I guess to back off from that, that's a little philosophical. It's that all of the yoga teachings really show us that energy begins at the base and flows and grows and evolves upward through increasingly spacious realities. And it doesn't do so if we smash it down. It does it when we allow it and transmute it and lift it up, but not like, oh, I'm pretending I'm up here and I actually don't have any of that down there because that's not allowed. That doesn't nurture and grow the basic vitality, life force energy, the Kundalini, the flame and fire of life that continually transmutes into higher and higher expressions. And so it's very important to nurture. Let's go back to that chakra idea. The second chakra in a child is nurturing their ability to freely express in their bodies, to feel okay about movement and intuitive responses to music and intuitive responses to the life around them. And the fourth chakra, of course, is the love. And devotion is the ability to take that energy that you feel and begin to direct it, towards, first beginning to direct it at all, honestly, because at first it's like, allowing it to flow, but then you learn to direct it. It's very similar to like yoga, you awaken the energy, you do the energizations, you do the things to get the energy going, then you do some postures that direct the energy. And once you've directed the energy, you can sort of focus it finally in the act of sitting still and having attention to the spiritual eye. But you don't succeed with that evolution if you shortcut it. You have to allow the energy to awaken, or like with chanting, it's like chant loudly at the beginning, or affirmations, say it loud at the beginning, and awaken the enthusiasm, or education for life. Awaken the enthusiasm is one of the first steps. You have to give it the passion and the vitality and the energy, and then it begins to refine and become more gentle and more interiorized. But if you try to short circuit or skip over and get to just the sattvic refinement when it hasn't genuinely moved from that core energy through your being to become that beautiful rainbow flame of the soul, then it's like building the cake from the icing out, starting with the icing, you're putting something false on it. And it's just very powerful when it comes from the true authenticity of the soul. And luckily on this path, we have had the great honor and privilege of knowing so many great saintly souls, and they are authentic. They are funny, they're childlike, they're joyous, you know. I kind of, you know, I'm amused when people come for the first time here and they're guests and they don't quite realize that this very simple soul serving in the kitchen is a saint, you know, I'm like, or because they're all around us, but they're so real and authentic and simple. And so I think it's a keystone to the path. And when we are truly authentic and original and ourselves, that's also true humility, because we aren't perfect. And so when we're willing to be really who we are, to feel what we feel, to reveal our true colors, it's humbling. And that is that moment when we take who we are and offer it to the divine, and we are transported. A flow of grace comes that lifts us up. But it has its strength, its power, its integrity in our authentic being. I don't know if that was helpful or not.
I found that helpful. And for me, it embodies even the path of Kriya yoga, which is the bringing it up and offering it, and to be able to receive that grace. So it's a perfect full circle of the path that we're on, in fact. Yeah.
And so maybe tying it into like little actions, teaching children to imbue with their heart's devotion the flower petals in front of a picture or a sculpture, imbuing that opportunity to have that natural heart's love spill towards I think devotion is quite natural in children if you create little opportunities for it. And I probably have to close here, right? Okay, I have to say one more thing, you guys, because it made me think of when I was at Ananda Village years ago, and Rachel was like, I guess she was 9 at the time. And I was thinking, oh, you know, I'm raising this child, but I really should be doing all these spiritual things and you know, feeling this conflict between it. And I went to this ceremony that they had at the Crystal Hermitage, and we laid these little offerings of candles onto the beautiful pool of water. And I was praying, it was a Krishna birthday thing, and I was praying to Krishna, help me to, you know, find the way to be spiritual in this situation, something like that. And I had the sudden like flow of grace experience. Your child is Krishna. Your child is Krishna. Rachel is Krishna. What are you thinking? You are raising Krishna. And it just shifted me. It's like, oh, motherhood is this devotional act towards the divine embodied as a child. And that really just put the two together for me. Whereas before I was thinking, you know, I'm meditating off by myself, or I'm with my child. Okay, I know I got to stop.
Oh, Dana, I would like that we just go on forever. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Thank Rachel for the key to the cafe.
Yes, my daughter came through to help this happen. Thank you.
Ends up being a perfect spot to host this from. So much inspiration. I can't wait to watch this over and over and over again.
Well, I'm so happy for what you guys are doing. Haribol, that's great.
Thanks, Dana. Yeah. If anybody has any last thing to say, feel free. Now's the time.
Thank you, Hansa.
Yeah, thank you, Hansa, very much.
It's our great pleasure, really.
Gayatri.
Thanks to everybody
love
for
this.
being here this evening. And yeah, I love that we shared this energy together and this inspiration. And yeah, I look forward to it continuing to expand.
Okay.
I thank you to Rachel for the nice ideas.
Yeah. Thank you,
So-
Julia.
children
Great to see.
are our teachers, and they are also very creative with the parents.
Indeed, indeed.
And thank you, Dana, for sharing all the stories.
Yay.
Yeah. If we were there, we would hug you. We would give you a big
Yeah.
hug.
There we go.
Kind of feel it already, like this group hug.
Exactly.
Yeah, really. Just, yeah,
Woo!
my mind is open. I love it. I love it. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yay!
We'll see you guys around
Bye-bye.
in
Bye.
the
See you
great Ananda
soon.
world.